Do you like art? Do you like original characters? Do you like money? Hi everyone, I'm Antonia, and this is a recently completed artwork commission, and this video is about the art commissioning process and overcoming struggles related to that process. These topics apply whether you're taking traditional or digital orders for your work as an artist, so without further ado, let's get started. There are a lot of ways to make yourself available for commissions, and the way I've chosen to do it is via Etsy. If you're interested in learning more about setting up an Etsy store, I will link a video tutorial on how to do that in the end cards at the end of this video. As we discuss, I'll be showing a speed paint of this commission on screen from start to finish and reveal the final composition at the end. This piece tackles 7 D&D original characters, each created by a different player, and I'm illustrating them together as a party in a 24-inch by 36-inch poster format. You may have already noticed that instead of sketching out each character's pose by hand, I used mixed media as a placeholder. Using a stock photo in the top right corner, I'm able to get the scale and pose I want for a specific character and build the rest of my composition around that in a way that fits my vision, and it saved me a lot of time. Pinterest, DeviantArt, and other websites that host reference photos and poses are great resources we can use to improve our work and our workflow. However, I'm not suggesting you trace your reference pixel for pixel. Once I'm ready to work on that character, I create a loose sketch over the placeholder, then hide the placeholder like I did here, so I can add my own details on the less detailed sketch. Tracing might seem like a good cheat mode, but you lose a lot of artistic freedom when you are borrowing too much from your source, and your work will no longer feel unique to you and your style. Even using this technique to my advantage, this commission still took me 15 hours to complete. So let's talk about some of the difficulties that we face when we agree to draw something for someone else. Things like how to draw when you aren't inspired or motivated, especially in the case of burnout. I also want to talk about when it's a good time to ask for client feedback and how to deal with changes to your vision to serve the client's vision. And what to do if you underestimated the amount of work involved and the cost of the commission doesn't cover the number of hours spent on it. Each commission comes with a detailed ask what the buyer wants you to draw. And when we're reading these asks and looking at their images, if they give you photos or reference drawings, it then becomes our job to piece all that info together into a new work of art. Sometimes we get an order that we're really excited to draw. It speaks to our own personal interest and challenges us to do something that we are looking forward to trying. But then other times we receive a request for something that just feels like work, and that's okay. It is work, and realistically getting that work is the goal of offering commissions to begin with. But now that you have a job to do, how do you get it done when you're not feeling inspired? Or worse, when you're already feeling overwhelmed or overcome with burnout? And believe me, I know how awkward this face looks, but trust the process. I rotate from character to character, adding and changing details, so none of the ones you've already watched will remain the same when I am done. But back to that million-dollar question, how to be creative when you don't feel like creating? I won't lie to you, it's not easy, but it can be done. Discipline is definitely your ally when it comes to completing work without motivation, but it is not your only ally. Despite being really excited to do this D&D commission, I received it during a very busy work week when I was putting in extra hours daily at my day job and was getting off work late and zapped for energy. Long story short, I was overwhelmed and feeling burnt out before I had even started the commission. What really helped me was setting small, intermittent goals that required as little energy consumption per day as possible, and I stretched out that commission across the full 2-week buffer that I created for my commission work orders so that I only needed to do a small part per day. Divvying it up like this reduces a lot of the stress and anxiety that otherwise felt crippling. Bite-sized goals gave me a chance to change a thing or two about the commission each night before bed, and that meant the work was still getting done without me having to power through on an empty tank. And as a quick side note, I think it's super important that when you make yourself available to do commissions that you always build in a buffer of time to get the work done. Even if you estimate that you will spend 8, 12, or 20 hours on a piece of art, it's not always possible to set that much time aside all at once. And you never know when life is going to throw you a curveball. During this commission alone, I personally had to combat two curveballs in my life: the extra hours at the office and the fact that my home computer kept crashing on me during the drawing process, which is why I do not have footage for some of these characters' sketch phases, since those screen recordings didn't save when the computer went belly up. But let's take a look at what I'm drawing right now, because this is actually part of the revision process for me. I am now revising the details on this character's dress by request from the client. I have a policy in place on my commission listings that I allow one revision. I've decided to send a preview image to the client for review at the line art stage, and this is their chance to gather all the feedback for that revision. I then take the notes that they give me and apply them to the drawing before adding color. The next time they see the artwork, it's completely colored and ready for delivery, and I always express that if I made any mistakes with the character's colors, I will do a courtesy revision, but that is specifically to correct errors and not meant to be used as a chance to play around with alternative palettes. Setting boundaries and establishing limits with clients before the transaction is made is very important. I have another series of videos already on my channel that cover commission protocol and can link it in the playlist at the end of this video. But right now, what I want to discuss is making changes to your artwork that you may not like, agree with, or which may cover up or replace a particular part of your drawing that you either really liked or worked really hard on and are proud of. Something I picked up at film school was that the benefit to having an editor work on your video who wasn't on set for the filming process helps them to put together the best film possible without being influenced by the labor involved in getting the shot. If the shot isn't working in the scene, it's important for the editor to leave it on the cutting board, and that's harder to do for someone who is really attached to the effort that made that shot possible. Same thing goes for your commission work. While you may be very attached to a specific element, based on the effort you invested in creating it, or possibly even just personal taste and bias, to the viewer, those behind-the-scenes details don't exist and won't matter. Letting go of something that takes precedence for you in exchange for what takes precedence for your buyer is a sacrifice we all have to be willing to make when the artwork isn't for us. And I'm pretty sure that goes for freelance artists as well as studio artists. I feel like this comes up in every video I make about taking art commissions, but artists being underpaid for their skill and time is an all too universal issue. So it's worth talking about until we as a community and as a society bring some balance to that landscape. So what can you do if you've underestimated the amount of work involved and the cost you and your buyer agreed upon doesn't cover the number of hours spent on it? Part of protecting your time and your labor as an artist is setting limits, and if the client has exceeded those limits, whether by asking for more rounds of edits than you agreed to, or by adding in previously unmentioned elements or characters to an order that weren't discussed when setting your price point, then I believe it's reasonable and professional to renegotiate your price, if you're willing and able, but know that you are never obligated to extend yourself. And you can bring it up by saying that you have the time and resources to make these additional requests. However, you will need additional compensation to cover that. But what if you've already accepted an order without setting those element or revision limits and already accepted payment? It doesn't hurt to bring it up when you're sending the work in progress file for review and set that expectation then. This also lets them know to gather all of their notes at once instead of leaking them to you in random bursts and trapping you in an endless revision loop. Sometimes though, you've done all of those things right and the client has respected your time, and even then you've undervalued your own work and the commission cost you more time than you were actually paid for. This is because you were unrealistic with your expectations of yourself, and trust me, we are all guilty of this. I've done it. So when this happens, the best thing you can do is update your commission listing prices to reflect the amount of time that it actually took you to do the work and apply that to future orders. And full disclosure, that is exactly what happened when I made this commission. I had set an expectation for myself that I could draw something of this caliber in a much shorter amount of time than I truthfully was capable of doing. Realistically, that's going to happen. We are going to have to check in with ourselves as we develop as artists and update our expectations and update our prices and update our offerings. Say I just develop a new skill set, or I become really good at drawing vehicles or something like that. So I can then add that to my list of offerings and my commissions if that is something that I now have the capability of delivering. which I don't. So don't go on Etsy asking me to draw you any kind of car. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna work, and you're not gonna love it, I promise you. So let's not do that. Let's stick to character art for the time being. This is probably my favorite part of any drawing, and that is the highlights and rendering stage. I spend most of my time, as you may have noticed in the beginning of this video, on getting the drawing correct. But once that is all set in stone, I get to throw in some flats, and I did that in Krita, which is also the program I used to draw the initial sketch. And then I come into Autodesk Sketchbook, which is what I'm currently using on screen, and that's where I start doing all the colors and the highlights and the rendering. These are the details that really help the drawing to pop, and it brings each character out and helps them to stand on their own and really shine. So I hope you have enjoyed this process, that you've enjoyed this video, that you got a lot from the notes, and that you like the artwork independently of all of that. There were some color changes made after I finished recording this speed paint, most notably to the Griffith construct, which you will see in a moment when I reveal the completed artwork. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting the like button and or leaving a comment below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel for more art and animation content all the time. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this art, and I look forward to seeing you next time.